Tata's first electric car, the Tigor EV, wasn't really targeted at everyday car buyers. This one, however, the Nexon EV, its second electric car, definitely is. It comes with a 129 horsepower electric motor, a claimed range of 312 kilometers according to ARAI, and plenty of comfort features on the inside. What's it like to drive? Is it a good replacement for your petrol or diesel? These and other questions answered when we drive the car today. The Nexon EV is different on the outside. More rugged looking to begin with, the facelifted version gets a higher bonnet, new headlights and a new front grille. There are plenty of blue elements to indicate it's an EV, and at the rear, the new Union Jack-like clear lamps feature LED elements. Under the skin, Tata's first EV for everyday buyers gets a liquid-cooled battery pack and a 312 kilometer range according to ARAI's optimistic driving cycle. Powering the car is a permanent magnet motor that puts out a maximum of 129 horsepower and 245 Newton meters of instantly available torque. And the motor draws power from a 30.2 kilowatt hour T-shaped battery pack that's placed under the floor. For those concerned about the battery's durability and longevity, the pack conforms with IP67 standards, which means it's waterproof to about 1 meter. And Tata also offers an 8-year or 160,000 kilometer warranty on the battery pack and the electric motor. The dashboard is familiar but updated. Now this one obviously is the EV. You get this anodized blue here, beautifully finished. It indicates that this is the electric version. This one doesn't get the connected features, but top spec versions of this car will get connected features with its own SIM. You can do a whole host of things like geofencing, alerts and stuff. You get an activity band as earlier, and importantly, you also get this display in the instrument panel. You can toggle through the various modes here. Of course, the most important mode is the energy flow so that you understand how to drive. On the left of that is a sort of tachometer which goes from regen, where it regenerates power back into the battery, to eco driving mode, that sort of eco range, and then finally power on the top. The steering wheel is also new, and because the new gear selector takes the place of the traditional gear lever, there is now a large storage cavity in front. Instead of the gear lever, you get this big chunky knob that goes reverse, neutral, drive and sport. The gear selection dial, however, isn't intuitive to use. When it's in the sun, you can't really tell what mode you're in. Look, I'm switching it and it's just the same. That highlighted bit just doesn't show up in the sunshine. So you have to look at the instrument panel, you have to look at that digital panel there and tell whether it's in drive, neutral or sport. Like the basic design of the dash, seat comfort at the front remains unchanged, with a good amount of support, especially for the back. And this is true of the rear seat too. So in the back of the Nexon, and it's easy to forget how comfortable this car is in the back. Excellent seat, lovely support for the thighs, good back support, nice elbow rest, and even plenty of headroom despite that arching roof, despite that tight-fitting roof. Excellent. Now, of course, this is the EV, so you get blue highlights here on the seat and this blue double stitching. But what's missing is a sort of charging point here and maybe a 12-volt socket. And Tata has deleted the blower control as well. The top spec XZ Plus Lux variant now gets additional features like a sunroof, beige leatherette upholstery and auto headlamps and wipers. Some of the variants also get 35 new app-based connectivity features. Initial impressions from behind the wheel are good. Now, where the Nexon EV does a tremendous job is that first inch of throttle travel. Tap the throttle and it moves forward effortlessly. There's plenty of torque, there's lots of energy, and driving in this manner, in a relaxed manner, is pretty special. It does feel very nice and comfortable. It does respond to the throttle beautifully, and as long as you don't require a sudden burst of power, D works very well. Whereas that initial spurt is beautifully metered and strong, ask for a bit more power in D, and it doesn't really respond quite as well. It takes its time to build speed, and then you prefer to have it in S mode. Once you make the switch to S, of course, there is a lot more power, and the Nexon just flies down the road. It is pretty thrilling. There's a lot of acceleration, and as Tata claim, this is one of their first cars that ducks under the 10-second time for 0 to 100. The only issue with Sport or S is that the metering is a bit too aggressive. Put your foot down and it just launches into acceleration. And the other bad bit is once you lift off, it tends to run on a bit, and that sort of takes some getting used to. Performance, however, is strong. When tested, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour took just 9.45 seconds in Sport, with the car taking 12.75 seconds in D, or the normal drive mode. Pretty quick. Flat out, however, the Nexon EV manages only 120 kilometers an hour. It also doesn't have adjustable regenerative brakes, so getting used to the regen when you lift off the accelerator takes some getting used to. Despite the heavy battery, it's also pretty agile. Now, because the weight is seated so down low and the Nexon is already a pretty agile car, this one is even more fun to drive. It sort of has the weight in the right place, you can chuck it around corners, and the steering gives you quite a lot of feel too. Thing is, on some of the tighter corners, the inside wheel tends to spin up a bit with that extra torque from the electric motor. With the heavy battery placed underneath, the springs and dampers are a bit stiffer. As a result, there's a hint of firmness to the ride. It isn't uncomfortable per se, but there's clearly a layer of stiffness now as it rides over busier and broken sections. Up the speed, however, and it comfortably rounds off bumps. The brakes are also excellent. Now, normally when you have regen braking, the brake pedal feels spongy, but not here. There's a lot of bite, plenty of confidence, and it just gives you a great deal of comfort when you're driving in stop-start conditions. Where the Nexon EV is a bit difficult to drive is on steep slopes. Now, what does take a bit of getting used to is the amount of rollback you get on a slope. Lift off the brake, and that's a good foot and a half, and that could be a bit difficult in tight traffic. When it comes to charging, DC charging is possible on the Nexon EV2 with 80% possible in just 60 minutes, and it also can be fully charged from 20% up in just 8 hours on a standard 15 amp AC plug. The Nexon EV works superbly as a city car. Comfortable, quick off the mark, and effortless to drive, it feels so familiar, most drivers will be happy to swap in a jiffy. And with the strong performance in S, those interested in bursts of performance won't be disappointed either. The Nexon EV also has strong brakes, tidy handling, and is actually quite fun to drive. And then there's the connected car tech as well as the well-equipped cabin. A lot, however, depends on two things: driving range in the real world, expected to be between 190 and 210 kilometers, and its price, which we are told is between 15 and 17 lakhs. Sure, early adopters who don't mind paying a bit more are likely to be interested, but for those of you looking for a more definitive verdict, we'll have to wait for a more thorough and detailed road test. What can't be missed, however, is that this remains one of the most promising EVs to go on sale yet.